I don't know what to do with my hands. Why do you think the LaCroix's here? Hello. Hi. My name is Nat. If you're new here, so am I. Don't worry about it. This is the first time I have done anything like this, and I know you're wondering, why would you voluntarily enter this? There's a lot of people doing fashion stuff, a lot of people doing haul videos, shopping videos, styling videos. There aren't a lot of people who are sort of mid-size to plus size, who do vintage and thrift focused content, who are not like 22 and like young and shiny, and who have sort of more of a modern minimalist, I would say. I don't really call myself a minimalist in terms of style. I don't really think of myself that way. I think what I'm mostly about is stuff that looks like it could have conceivably come out today, stuff that looks current, but it has something about it because it's vintage or because it's secondhand, because it's a lot older, that doesn't really hit the trend nail right on the trend nail. What the f? Like, there's something about vintage that I like that sort of like jams the sensors. You could look at all kinds of stuff and be like, oh, you must have just bought that, or like, oh, that probably came from like H&M or those like, you know, Boohoo, Shein. People buy their clothes on these websites that look like they're gonna steal your personal information, and it just, I don't get it. The whole reason I'm even doing this is just because I get really excited about clothes, and just telling my friends about them is not scratching that itch enough for me. Like, I need to like go make a content about how much I love the shit I bought at the thrift store. This is why we're here. I have a bunch of stuff I've bought over the summer. The thrift stores opened back up again after the Rona times, and throughout the spring, I was very, very cautious of how much money I was spending. I think like a lot of people, there was sort of a sense of general anxiety. Like, if you had a job, you're like, am I gonna have a job tomorrow? Better hoard all my muns for as long as possible. Things have eased up to a degree. I'm in Toronto. We're hitting a worrying upslope, which means your girl is probably gonna be doing some online shopping in the next little bit. What else is new? Like, this is not a huge change for me. So I want to start by showing you guys these earrings. Easy place to start, directly on either side of my face. These actually came from an Etsy shop. I sort of stalked them for a while before I pulled the trigger on them. I love a big earring. Like, if you know me, you know I love a big earring. If you get to the end of this video, you will know that I love a big earring. There's like 6 pairs that I'm gonna show you. I really like these because they have that sort of geometric feel. It's also sort of organic and sculptural. These actually were marked vintage. I'm sure they are vintage. I'm sure whoever sold them to me got them secondhand, but I looked at the back and it actually just looks like 2 pieces of shell just glued together, like someone just straight up made these. They don't look manufactured, so apparently the raw components of making something like this are actually pretty cheap, so I might actually replicate these at some point. If you want to see me glue some shit to some other shit. Can I cuss? I think I might go by Game Grumps rules. Like, just don't cuss for the first minute and then it's a goddamn free-for-all. Anyway, I love these. I have worn them way too many times for one giant pair of earrings, but they were also a little bit expensive with the shipping to Canada and everything. They came out to about $38 Canadian, which is really more than I like to spend on a pair of earrings, especially since I own so many pairs of earrings. But I think that I'm already making up the cost per wear on these. So the first thing here is a bag. I'm very, very picky about handbags. I don't own a lot of them because I'm just so choosy about which ones I get, and even then I have a tendency to like buy one main bag and run it absolutely into the ground and then swap it out for something else once that one falls apart. My current day-to-day bag is actually a thrift find, and it's maybe the best thing I've ever bought at a thrift store in my life, but I'm not going to show you that today because I didn't thrift it this fall. I thrifted it last summer. But we do have this bag. This has this sort of very cool kind of starburst detail with like the little turn lock in it. Not a turn lock, it's like a flippy lock. Like a flippy flip lock. I think it's real leather, I suspect. It's not nice leather, it's like really cheap. I mean, even if it's not, like, I think I probably only paid about like $7 for this at Value Village. And I think it's great. I think the shape of it is really cool. It really kind of fits with a lot of trends that are happening right now in bags. You're sort of getting this kind of trapezoidal shape. It does have a little bit of damage on the end here, but I could probably get some edge coat or something and just clear that up. So, you know, pretty happy with this. Up next, because it's next in the pile, is another giant pair of earrings. These are from Value Village. They were in the case, weirdly. I feel like 9 times out of 10, what's in the case at Value Village is not even the cutest jewelry they have. It's just whatever they've deemed to be potentially the most expensive or the most expensive looking or the most resaleable. Sometimes it's just like true shenanigans what ends up in the case. Like, you know, I would go to visit my mom in Windsor and there would be beautiful shoes out on the rack, and then they'd have these like janky, sad, like fake Gucci sneakers, like the fakest Gucci sneakers in the case. These are these beautiful, can you see it? Can you see it? These beautiful seashell earrings. I don't know if they're brass, but they're definitely like solid metal. Like there's some good weight to these. So these were actually, I think, like $12.99 or something, which is, for Value Village, steep. The more that I look at them, like the detail on them is really fine and they feel like a really quality, you know, quality item. So basically a couple weeks ago, I was lucky enough to get to go to an event called Hippie Market by the people behind 69 Vintage, which was a great vintage store on Queen West. I actually got to be a buyer there for like a little part-time sort of scout for vintage pieces for like 2.5 seconds, and it was maybe like one of the coolest 2-month gigs I've ever had. And so when I was down there, I ran into a buddy of mine named Rochelle. She runs My Clementine Vintage, and her whole thing is vintage pieces that are size inclusive. So she will have stuff on the smaller end of things if it's really special, but the bulk of her sort of practice is stuff that's like a large to extra large and above. So I got a couple things from her. This might not look like a whole lot, but this is the kind of top that I will just buy and wear into the ground. I have so many vintage and thrifted, like white tanks, off-white tanks, white sort of t-shirt blouses. I feel like I should stop buying them because I own so many of them, but the truth is they all get worn. So I got this shirt and another 2 as sort of a package deal from Rochelle. I think she gave it all to me for $60. So I like this a lot. One thing that kind of bugs me about it is the fact that they sort of did this hem on the inside that I guess is supposed to avoid there being like an obvious sewn hem on the collar of the shirt. But either way, I'm pretty happy I picked this up. I also got another plain shirt. So this actually has this great button detail in the back, which I really like. And I actually tried it on backwards as well, and it still looks reasonably cute. So it's kind of like a twofer, you know? So this is probably my favorite thing that I ended up with from Hippie Market. And I got this from a vendor whose name escapes me. I will put it on the screen. I kind of love that now, like whenever I have a brain fart, I can just like, editing me can just come save my ass and just flash it on the screen a bunch of times. I got this cropped linen jacket. It's a little wrinkly and it has probably also cat fluff on it. I'm sorry, the cat fluff is just an inescapable, just ever-flowing tide at this point. Brand is Character Suburban Wear. So this is a size 10. I am not a size 10, but the nice thing about this sort of like late 80s, early 90s kind of era is that they had these massive shoulders, these really boxy cut jackets, but you know, they cinch it at the waist. But the nice thing about this is it's all elasticized around the bottom, so it actually, even though it really goes in at the waist, it still fits, and the shoulder is plenty roomy. When I bought it, you know, it was a night market, we're all having fun, we're like carousing and whatnot. So the vendor was like, there's a bit of sun damage on it, so I'll factor that into the price. So I think I only paid like $25 or something for this. And then I, you know, looked at it in the harsh light of day, and it turns out there is a fair bit of sun damage on it, like all across the top. You can probably see it here. So I've been kind of going back and forth on what I want to do about that. Like, should I try to over dye it? Should I cover it with something? Basically, you're not supposed to submerge linen in super hot water, but that's exactly what most dyes, you know, commercially available dyes want you to do. You're supposed to boil it, really let it soak in super hot water. I would rather not do that because I feel like it's gonna just completely shrink this to hell. So I don't know, like I might just kind of roll with it. I might try dunking it in some tea or coffee at a colder temperature and see if that does anything. If you have any suggestions, let me know. Like cold dyes do exist, but apparently they're like super hard to get your hands on. Like there was one commercially available brand and then they discontinued it and I'm like, guess I'll die. Let's go back to the earrings, because I'm just excavating them from the bottom of the pile of clothing and I don't want them to roll off the bed. Next was these. I got these on Depop. This might just be me. Where I live in Canada, they only kind of show you regionally available stuff. If you're plus size, shopping on Depop is just like, it's a wasteland, man. Like there's just... It's just like, oh, you're not a size small? Too bad, so sad. But I did find these sick-ass earrings. They've got this sort of like melty hoop kind of John, and they're two-toned, and they like the shells. They're kind of heavy. They're probably not everyday earrings, but I still think they're sick as hell. I think it was $5 for the earrings and then $5 for the shipping, which to me is more than fair. There's no brand that I can tell, but they've got like a good weight to them. Good as in quality, but bad as in like probably gonna look like I had like 00 gauges by the end of the day wearing them. So this I got at the Value Village in Windsor, which is where my family's from. It was nice to get to actually go down there and see the fam and also hit the thrift store, because like what else are you gonna do? I ended up with this green, army green, sort of a tank dress. Oh my god, so much. The cat hair, it's never ending. It's matte like a suede, but it's clearly got like a weave to it. I believe it's originally from Sears. I love the color, I love the cut, I love the fabric. It's like, I'm gonna live all my best Daria fantasies in this. The problem is, the fit is not 1000%. Like I tried it on over my clothes in the store. You can't actually try anything on like in the fitting rooms right now because again, Rona times. And then I took it home and it's a little bit big in certain places. It's a 16. I'm a 16 normally a lot of the time these days. So a vintage 16 is more likely to be too small on me. I think it's like the cut's not 1000%. You know, I am a smaller chested person. Like most of my sort of weight and size is kind of carried like in here. A lot of the times if stuff's plus, they tend to cut it fuller in the bust to accommodate the boobs that I surely must have. So I'm debating whether to get this tailored. This cost $10.49, which is an amount that I'm comfortable paying. I mean, it's, you know, Canadian prices, the dollar value is higher than in the States. I think it would probably be like $6 or $7 US. I tend to justify a lot of thrift purchases like that though, because like when you're a 16 or so, the pickings are just so much slimmer than if you were like a smaller size person. So it's really easy to kind of fall into the trap of like, oh, like I never find anything like this, I'll get it tailored, but like, is it really worth it in the end? And then you gotta figure like, well, if I paid for this new, maybe something newer like available in store right now would fit me better, but then it would probably cost about as much as it took me to buy this thrifted item and tailor it. There really is no one good solution. I don't know. I just want to keep this dress. I like it. So I got a couple more Windsor finds for you. It's another pair of earrings. Kill Surprise. These ones are just these little clippy boys. You know, I went to the earring section. These were the only things that looked sort of vaguely attractive. And then I was like, wait a minute. I was a child in the 90s who frequented a lot of museum gift shops. Those looked to me like mood rings. And sure enough, they were. So I've gotten a few compliments already, like just wearing them. The few people outside of, again, my boyfriend and my cat who actually see me are like, those are cute. And I was like, thanks, they're mood rings. Thanks, they're mood rings is the earring equivalent of thanks, it has pockets. Less common, but equal in smugness. So the same trip when I found the earrings, and by the way, I think these cost maybe like $3. I also found some jeans. I love vintage denim, and I would like to make a video about that at some point, being a plus size or plus adjacent mid-size person, whatever, and buying vintage denim, because I think that, you know, a lot of us probably know that when you have like kind of more going on in the midsection, that sort of high-waisted, super stiff denim is not always the easiest thing to shop for. Like, fit gets tougher, just availability is tough. You go to the vintage stores, right? And there's like walls and walls and walls of cute vintage Levi's and like Levi's jorts and Wranglers and Lees. and then there just isn't anything available in your size most of the time. And then you go to the thrift store and overwhelmingly it's like 9 million like Old Navy Rockstar jeans. Like it's just Old Navy Rockstar jeans in every possible size, fit, finish, color. So finding the actual like good quality 100% cotton vintage denim that I have come to favor because A, it looks cool, and B, I'm a masochist. Masochist. Yeah, sadist is when you inflict pain on other people. Although if other people want me to take them shopping for vintage jeans, I'm sure that could be arranged also. These are a size 14, which like, again, is a little smaller than I normally go. I'm like a 16, sometimes a 14. These are a 14, and they fit great, but they're tight. But they're like a good tight. Tight. Anyway, these are Jones New York Sport. Jones New York, as you probably know, is like a more, like a department store brand. Like it's a little bit nicer, but it's not schmancy. It's not super trendy either. Your mom probably was buying Jones New York back in the day, but the nice thing about it is its quality. These are 100% cotton, and they're really nice and thick, and it's more of a skinny fit instead of that super up and down kind of straight leg or the wider leg. They tend to taper in at the ankle a fair bit. And I think these were only $5, which is crazy to me, because like Value Village, they tend to overprice everything these days, but somehow they found like the one pair of decent jeans like available in their store and then just priced them for a $5, which like I'm not complaining. I've worn these actually a bunch since I got them. I did have to kind of lunge my way into making them fit, you know, just... This is me lunging, but sitting on a bed. Are you getting the full experience? Are you entertained? So I have saved probably my favorites for last. This is another Windsor find. Shout out to Windsor. There's not a lot going on, but there is some decent thrifting to be had. There's cat hair, laces every time. This is my life. It's these combat boots. These are actual real deal men's combat boots. So I wear a size 11 shoe, women's, which is like, I probably don't need to tell a lot of you, it was a pain in the ass to find, like truly. I make up for it by purchasing pretty much every pair of shoes that I like that comes in my size. I never really used to think I wanted combat boots. The look of them was cool, I just didn't really know what I would wear with them, and I was more attracted to like Doc Martens. I actually own a pair of Docs. I got them secondhand at a vintage store here in Toronto, but I just don't wear them that often. Like, I mostly save them for winter time. I find them just kind of tough to wear. They're not that comfortable, and also like the toe box is kind of big. A lot of men's boots, they tend to be kind of bulbous at the end. This, you know what I'm talking about? I went to the VV and found these and was initially kind of like waffling on them for a couple reasons. You know, I wasn't really sure if that actual combat boot look was something that I wanted to go for. I was also worried about them breaking in badly. Every pair of combat boots I've always looked at just looked like Blister City, USA. But these ones actually are fairly thin. The leather has a fair bit of flex to it. It's actually really nice. Like, it's really shiny, but it's creasing nicely. It's not like there's a fair bit of flex to it, although there is there's a cap in the heel, and there's like a cap in the toe. So this is probably for the best. I'm clumsy as shit, so like if something is gonna save me from myself this winter, let it be this. The price was like $34, which, like, I'm sure a lot of you guys are just like, no, like what? Like, no. You get sort of used to higher prices when you're A, in Canada, B, you live in a big city, although this was Windsor, this was not a big city, and C, these were quite good quality. I mean, they barely had any wear on the shoes. They had barely any wear on them at all. I also had a coupon as well, and I was returning some stuff to the store, so in the end, I think I'm probably like out of pocket. It only ended up being like 20-25 bucks, which I would say is worth it. I save most of my like stompy shit kicking man boots for the winter time because like Toronto winters are just like a nightmare of slush and salt. You just live in just a pile of dirty snow for like 6 straight months and it sucks. So these are gonna come in handy. Hey guys, it's a week later. Did you know that on very old Nikon DSLRs, the longest you can go on a single take of video is 20 minutes? I didn't. Now I do. I couldn't let this video end without showing you guys my #1 vintage find, thrift find, probably of the whole fall. And I have Since filming that video last week, I've bought more shit. If you guys are anything like me, you tend to get fixated on one sort of holy grail item of clothing that you're looking for at a time. And you're searching high and low for this perfect piece, and then once you find it, you probably just find another thing to search for endlessly because... So I had it in my head that I wanted a pair of Chelsea motorcycle boots with the harness on the side and sort of the stretchy like goring thing at the top. Saw a vintage pair on the Instagram stories for a store that I follow here in Toronto called Black Market Vintage. You should follow them, by the way, they're great. Saw it for a second, was like, those are cool, those are in my size, I don't need them. And then a day later, of course, I was like, JK, changed my mind, I do need them. And they were gone, of course. So I was looking all over the place for these guys. I actually was this close to pulling the trigger on a pair from a British company called Grinders, which, by the way, is near impossible to Google. And it would have been like $200 to ship the crazy things from the UK. And then, 2 weeks ago, I walk in a 96 Tiers Vintage here in Toronto on Bloor Street and found these bad boys. I love them. I love them so much. They're perfect. So as you can see, we've got this beautiful smooth leather. We've got, you know, this sort of Western detailing on the toe here. We've got the harness on the sides. There's like a little tiny bit of a block heel. I could not be more thrilled with these. The only issue is that they're maybe a hair too big. I usually wear a 42 in like European sizing, and these I believe are 44. I wouldn't say they're like a full size big. I think a 43 would have been perfect, but it's definitely big sock territory here. I've had to do a fair boot. The Canada jumped out. I've had to do a fair bit of like big sock wrangling to get these guys to fit comfortably, but I mean, they're quite walkable. They're beautiful. There's barely any wear on them. I don't know if you guys can tell, but like, and the leather's really nice and smooth and like workable, and just cannot say enough good things about this. And I think these were $55 at 96 Tiers, which to me is quite a reasonable price, right? I mean, they're a really solid pair of boots. I actually prefer to buy motorcycle boots or sort of more men's style, vintage style boots like these as vintage. There's a lot of shoes that I would not want to buy vintage. I've had things like vintage sandals die on me because the glue wears out and they snap, or vintage sneakers, you know, they'll discolor a lot of the time, but for something like this, the quality that you're gonna get for your money is way better than something modern that's mass made, because I think these are actual motorcycle boots, and like they're not messing around when they make these bad boys. The heel on one of them has come unglued, so maybe I spoke too soon, but it's okay, we can fix that. It's nothing a trip to the cobblers or some judiciously applied adhesive glue won't solve. So that's everything I want to show you guys this week. If you stuck with me this far, thank you so much for hanging out. I'd love for you to tell me down in the comments what your favorite piece was, what you're most excited to wear for fall, your favorite pasta shape. I don't know, man. Do what you want. It's your comment. Thanks again, and I'll catch you guys whenever I'm back here next.